All right, hello and welcome to Marketing Ping Pong. My name is Ali,
And I am Duncan.
and we are here to have a little bit of fun with marketing businesses that we do not own, and yet we can't stop thinking about what we would actually do if we did. That is the whole premise of this show. Duncan, I told you before we went live here, but I think it's so exciting. It's worth announcing that we've actually released our first 2 episodes as of the day of this recording, and we had an entire 21 listens. So I think that we are nailing it.
Nailing it.
I think that we are on our way. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm so excited to do this call with you. So in the first 2 episodes, when we actually got on the call and started recording, we knew what businesses we were going to talk about. And for this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. Duncan has picked a business that he wishes he could have, own, run, etc. And I have no idea what that business is. So I haven't had, the last time I had time to think about it, I picked a business, I knew what it was, I had time to think about it. And he had told me his in advance. So this time we're going to have a little bit more fun. I think it's just add another challenge level, right? And then the episode after this, we're going to do the same thing, and he doesn't know my business. So we're going to see how this works, and hopefully it's not a massive train wreck, and that we actually come across as smart and we come up with some great ideas.
Yeah, we'll make it work. I didn't know that I was going first. I got instantly nervous. I was like, oh, I'm up.
It's your turn.
Okay.
You're first.
Okay. Yeah, I'm psyched. This is going to be super fun, and it's a business that I've thought about a lot, and I think that maybe one of the things that you probably do too, when you have a business that you really want to start, you build this world in your head of like, here's what we're going to do, here's the my ideal customer, here's like the shirts that they're going to wear, everybody's going to be in a club, get cool hats, eventually they're going to become, almost cult-like, they got like tattoos, for the business, like they're going to be all in. I have this like world of people in my head who would love this business, so I'm very excited to talk about it.
All right, so let's just do it. What business would you love to create that we are going to play around with today?
All right, so here's the business. I want to create an eco tour business, right? So there are many eco tour businesses out there. The thing that sets this eco tour business apart is that it provides kind of like a Survivor-esque game show experience. So people that want to be their own like Survivor Man, Bear Grylls, like deep in the woods for long periods of time, experiencing what it's actually like to be out in the woods, out in nature. That's really who this is for. So it's not just eco tours. It's almost like a backcountry survivalist eco tour business in the Everglades. So we're gonna take groups of people out, whether it be photographers, just nature nerds, whoever it is. It's really for anybody that really wants to get out and experience what nature is like. We're gonna take them out, and we are gonna be out there for ridiculously long periods of time. I haven't quite decided exactly how long. We'll have a few tiers of service. We'll have the beginner that's just like a weekend adventure. We'll have like a week-long thing, and then who knows, maybe like a crazy like 30-day challenge, like our own thing, like that TV show Alone, where we're out there just for as long as we can to see if we can survive. So that's kind of the business, and I want to get your initial thoughts. What do you think? Are you coming on a tour with me?
So no, I'm not coming on. However, that being said, I love this because we've watched a lot of Alone. We have watched a lot of Naked and Afraid.
Yep.
We have watched, I think my favorite series, I think it's Bear Grylls that does The Island, which is a UK show, which I think is probably my absolute favorite because it takes not people that are survivalists, but people that are everyday people.
Yes.
And just challenges them, like, can you live on this island, not alone, but as a community? And I think I really loved that one because nobody was coming in with an ego of like, I've got 25 years of military experience and I've been living in the bush forever. But instead it's just like, I don't know, I'm an accountant and now I live on an island and is this a coconut? So I love I love that I love that idea. So I've heard you talk before that you wanted to do the eco tours, but I've never heard you talk about like the survival side of it, which I think is really, really cool. I will not be going. I'll go on a day trip.
Oh, you can do the
I'll go on
weekend.
a day trip.
You can
I'm
do the
not
weekend. Come
on
on.
the ground. I'm not. Beds exist, and
Yeah.
so I will. I like watching other people do it, and as I watch them do it, I cuddle up with a cozy blankie and a pillow and enjoy my modern life.
Do you do the critiquing there that what they're doing? Like, oh, I wouldn't, I wouldn't fish like that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
That's a really stupid decision to like waste all your resources on that one decision when you should have been doling them out more. Oh, absolutely. That's that's the whole fun of it is to
from the couch to critique.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm like, I've watched enough of these shows now that I know that was a bad decision that they made. And I used to, when I was younger, I was definitely way more into it. And if I were younger, I would definitely be all about it. But no, I have no interest now. But I think it's a really cool idea. And I love that you said like the game show side of it, because that kind of like sets the tone that it's number one, people are familiar with these shows, right? They know the shows. Everybody wants to do something like that, and they're not sure if they can actually make it or not. And two, anytime you put the word game in it, it's automatically more interesting. So the eco tours that you want to do, are they... So how are we putting together eco tour? So, like, I guess kind of like maybe describe to me what is the eco tour part of it and what is the survival part of it, and how do where the two overlap?
Yeah, so I think that the main, like the primary products that are on the market right now, you have like your half day and full day tours. You have like sunset-y, cruise kind of things where you get on a boat with a naturalist or somebody that knows the environment, and they take you around to different places to see wildlife, and they talk to you about it. And it's a little bit hands off. Like you see all the wildlife and you get to hear from a professional about how the ecosystem works, and I think that that's really important. I think getting that kind of understanding of how the environment works and how the different systems work together, how to basically identify animals, I think that's a really important part of the survival process, right? Like you have to kind of know the landscape of where you are and what animals are there, what to look out for, what kind of plants you can eat, all the basic stuff that you need to know to actually be out there and not pick up a rattlesnake thinking it's a whatever and die from snake bite. Like you need the basics, and I think that that's kind of where the intersection is like the first part of this experience, say if it's like a two-day thing, the first day would be going out and learning. Like you would need to learn to identify things, everything I just mentioned. That would be like the eco tour portion of it. And I would really love, there's this kind of a trend toward luxury kind of camping, like in a yurt with air conditioning, or I've seen some really cool domes where they build a dome that you can see the stars at night, and just like a really a high-end luxury way to stay out in the woods. I really think it would be cool to kind of have that as a home base where, if somebody really, really doesn't want to go be out in nature, they can still rent one of these things and they can have the experience where it's literally
I will
out.
Totally stay in the dome.
Exactly.
I will stay in the dome. Yes.
Yeah. So the dome's like the high-end, top-tier, luxury glamping experience, and I think it's important to have that as well so you can appeal to more markets. And that would be kind of like the first portion of it, right? So you're there, that's your home base. You go out for like a day tour of the area that you're going to be surviving in. You get to learn about the things that are out there, the kind of fish that you can catch, kind of stuff you can eat, etc., etc., and then it transitions into the second day where you're actually just kind of like taken somewhere, dropped off with, maybe without a guide. I'm not exactly sure the logistics of that or the legalities of it. You might have to own
the insurance
a large
cost of running that kind of business.
Yeah. You're gonna need some hardcore waivers,
yes.
We're not liable if you die in our care kind of stuff. But I do think that there are people that I think that everybody craves that kind of experience, whether they know it or not. Like, they want to know if they would actually be able to survive. They don't know. They don't even know the first thing about how to get out there and do that, though, right? So, like, the experiences are there. You can just go take a truck and drive into the Big Cypress National Forest in, where there's roads and where it's legal, and be in the woods. You can be out there so far that if you died, nobody would know. They wouldn't know how to find you. And, like, to me, that sounds kind of macabre, but that's the experience that I love. Like, I love being so far into nature that you kind of get back to being a part of it. So that would be the second part of this experience. It's like how to give them the basic life skills and like nature skills, survival skills that they need, and then give them that experience in a safe and controlled way. That's kind of where the two would kind of cross and intersect. So
I think that's really cool. So I have seen on some of these shows where they will show them like just a real quick clip of them showing, like, here's what not to eat, and here's what you're like legally you're not allowed to kill this animal. They kind of give them the rundown, and I always thought that it sucked that we didn't get to see that part.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I kind of would love to see that as part of the show, because I'm like, what does it actually take, and what are they looking for, and what did they already know because the show told them about it, and what don't they know because the show didn't tell them. So I love that part of actually learning the skills and learning the difference between the snakes, for instance, like water snakes. I don't know the difference between a harmless water snake and something that could hurt me pretty badly.
Most people don't, and like that's that education that opportunity for education is there on a lot of things. Like I am sorely lacking in some of that, right? Like my plant identification skills are not great, and like it's something that I want to learn about, which so often is where these business ideas come from. It's like, what would I just ignore everything else and just hyper focus and learn about this one thing? And this is definitely one of those. So
categories. If we were up north, I would totally have you on the plant identification part. I got your back on that. Down here, I have no idea. But up north, I can do some serious foraging. I've got a lot of that under my belt from a lot of years. So I do love this idea. I do love it, even if I don't want to be out there in Florida. And I think there's definitely a market for it. So who are you looking at? Like, who is your who for doing this?
Yeah, so I think that again, pointing to one of the things that happens with these businesses, like in the beginning, I really hyper-focused on an ideal client of nature photographers that want like a little bit more than... They want a little bit more than the boardwalk at 6 Mile Cypress. They want a little bit more than the more difficult trails that you can hike. They want to be in nature and they want to be immersed in it. That was kind of my first like niche. And I was like, okay, cool. I can build a product for them because I am that person. Like I can build that. I know what would make that fun. I know how I would structure it so that they would have the best time of their lives. And then we could go back to the luxury, the domes that have internet, and we could edit the photos every night. Like I have a plan for that. But I maybe you might disagree with me here. I feel like that niche is fantastic, but I feel like the market is a lot broader for the survival kind of thing. I feel like there's a huge opportunity there to get families and people that really want to test themselves, and it just really opens up the potential client base without being too broad. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and I hear you on that. I think there's definitely a market for it, right? It's kind of identifying who those people are, and obviously there's going to be a lot of the ones that were like, I was in the military for 25 years. Like, there's definitely going to be a lot of those people that want to kind of thump their chests a little bit and be like, I can survive anything.
Sure.
But then there's just like with Bear Grylls, The Island, there were just the accountant that wants to test themselves,
Yes.
Like, I feel like I'm not having life satisfaction and I want to do something different and I want
something meaningful.
I want to kind of see what I'm actually made of and can I rise to the occasion? And I think this gives a perfect opportunity for that. I think where your instincts are good about the photography is the documentation of it. Mm-hmm. I like the idea that they can go out just like they do with Alone. It's just them and a camera talking to themselves, right? And for a nature photographer, just even doing the nature photography is a way to document that experience. And so they come back with something. They come back with their experience, but they also come back with, the photos that they've taken.
Yep.
And so I think if you do it beyond them, the idea of giving them, little cameras that they can have with them, or they bring cameras of some sort and encourage them to document the experience, because I think we learn a lot watching those, and that's where the interesting things happen on those shows, right? And that's where people really have those aha moments, is talking to themselves in the camera, because part of this is the mental game, right? We've got this mental game, and I need to kind of sort through, where am I at with this right now? Mm-hmm. And so having that way to document it, I think is a really great idea.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think that really we haven't gotten into this part of the conversation yet, but that's really like the foundation of the marketing plan that I have in my head, is that documentation and having some sort of, essentially like a media company that's like the vehicle for advertising this entire business. And it's taking it a little bit outside of the local businesses that we usually talk about, but you really can create something like a TV show, YouTube channel that acts as your content marketing strategy for this business, and the content is built in. It's like you're giving the cameras to these people, they're going to be creating the content for you, and you just need to process it and put that out there to really generate the eyeballs that you need to get people into this business. I do think that you'll have the people that want to test themselves. I think that there's also a market for families that want to do something like unique and different. It's like there's the whole adventure tourism kind of market, and that's in the Everglades too. That's in South Florida. They have like, airboat tours, even though that's going kind of the way of the past, and people are arguing about whether that's good or bad for the environment. That's a thing down there. You have like python hunts, you have all this stuff down there that's like adventure tourism, and I think this is a unique thing that would just kind of plug right into that ecosystem. And there's a lot of opportunity to partner with people that are doing similar businesses down there and kind of add those things into the experience to kind of liven it up. I'm not exactly sure, but a ton of different ways that you could kind of spice things up by partnering with people.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really important. So when we talk about who the customer is, we're really asking, how are we going to market it?
Yep.
Right. Well, one, we want to build the product around, the right time. We want to build a product that our ideal customer is going to just absolutely love. That they're going to say, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! I have to do this." But we also need to figure out how to market it, which is why having an ideal customer is, so helpful for us on the marketing side. So what I envision is really starting local and starting with a lot of the joint venture type opportunities, and even doing kind of a call. I think about like, all these reality shows that they're really short ones that they'll do maybe in LA. They do it in LA because there's a lot of people in LA, and that's where the production company is. And the people that end up being on the show are from LA, right? Yeah. They just put an ad out somewhere and say, hey, we're doing this reality show thing. Come on down and you can be a part of it, like a game show or just something really quick like that.
Yep.
And so I would think that if you started with, Facebook groups in the area and letting them know that you're thinking about doing something like this, is anybody interested? And then you get people, then you're market researching, right? And the value of market researching that way is it's putting a bug in people's brain. I saw this thing and they're like doing this survival in the Everglades, and I maybe they didn't comment on it, maybe they didn't even like the post, but now it's in their brain that something like this exists. And when their cousin from out of town says, hey, what do you have that's different down here that I can do while I'm visiting? But then you get the feedback from people saying, oh my gosh, I would love that. I've always wanted to do something like that. And then you can bring it up to, okay, so if we did something like this, I was thinking perhaps we could do a 3-day option where we do 1 day of training and then you're 2 days out on your own. What do you guys think? Do you think 3 days is too short? Is it too long? Do you think we should start just with the training part and you go back to the groups and you ask them again? Now, at some point in time, you start funneling these people that are giving answers. You start having conversations with them. You funnel them into your own list. That could be a Facebook page or an email list or whatever. But starting at that local level and getting strong feedback from people who are already familiar with the area, and that kind of know, like when you say like survival in the Everglades, they know the Everglades, you know what I mean? And there's going to be enough people in this local area that will at least have some sort of interest to raise their hand, that you can then have a face or a messenger conversation, or even just jump on a Zoom call with them or a phone call with them and say, can I just ask you some questions about this? This is something we're thinking about doing. I'm wondering, what somebody like you would actually look for in a program like this. So I'd love to just jump on a call. I don't even have anything to sell you. I just want to ask you questions. And so I love that, because they can help you build out the program the way that they want it to be. And then you don't have to build a program on a hope and a prayer that I think this is what everybody's this is what I would like. Is this what everybody else likes? Because we all have that, right? We all have like, this is how I envision it. This is what I want to do, but I don't know if that's how everybody else is going to like it. So
it's kind of like letting the market tell you what product they want. Yeah.
And advertising your program the entire way. Because the entire time you're doing market research, this is how I love launching programs online. I just say, hey, I'm thinking about running a retreat. What do you guys think? Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. Maybe we could go to Florida. Maybe we could go to Tennessee. Maybe we could go to all these different places. Oh, okay, there was a lot of really great feedback on that. Here's 4 different locations we could possibly go. And then they vote on that. By the time I release the program, they're so primed and ready to join that I don't even have to have a good sales page. They just join. And I think you could do that with this to get that excitement going, get the community, the, Collier County, Lee County people in this area. And you could even like ask in Miami too, if you're coming up dry in this area.
Yeah.
And say, I'm just doing some market research. Or you might not even be coming up dry. You're like, this is working so well, I'm going to jump in some Miami Facebook groups and start asking questions over there, because I'm getting so much great response from this. And then as you're building this out, that's such a great idea, because if you get that going, then you can start making those kinds of posts a little bit further up in Florida, and a little bit further from there, and a little bit further from there, until you actually start getting the content that you need to actually build the marketing side of it, which I really want to talk about, like the more national marketing side of it,
sure.
Which would be like the show and clips and that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, I like that idea a lot, and I really like the idea of again, like letting the market tell you what they want and helping you build the product. Like I've missed that in my own business, and it's like I'm learning it now, like letting your customers tell you what they want. It's very easy to ask, like even if they're not customers, it's very easy to ask, like, what do you think about this idea? And people want you to know, like they want their ideas heard. So it's not like there's no friction in that process. People want their opinions heard. So yeah, love that idea. And cool.
And, I just want to say a point on that. People love to share their opinion. So what happens in those Facebook groups is people will have an opinion, because we've all watched Bear Grylls, and we've all watched Alone, and we've all watched that stuff, and we all want to judge from our armchair. So we're going to have opinions about what you should do with this. And what happens when people have strong opinions is they comment. And when they comment, Facebook pushes the post out further, and you end up getting so much more exposure by asking people opinions and for their help. Because they also like to help too. You get so much more exposure on that. Then you get people disagreeing in the comments, but you also get people planning it in the comments. Ooh, then you could do this, you could do that. We should call Bob. Bob would love to do that. Yeah, we should totally call Bob. And so they're making a plan to hire you before you've even had this thing up on the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, combining that research, making your research marketing, I think is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. I wanted to talk to you. Mentioned that we're going to talk about on one of our later episodes about challenges for local businesses, and I think this is like a really good business for that. I was thinking of maybe having you know, we'll have our luxury domes and we'll have a lot of different products and options. But I was thinking of doing a local PR kind of campaign thing where you have two families kind of go head to head to see if they can last however much time in the woods, or kind of pit some groups against each other and make a big thing out of it, right? Like when you launch this thing, it's like you want, when we get to the point of actually launching it, you want to have some feedback and testimonials from people that have actually done it. And if we can do it in a way that lends itself to like being a little bit more, having a little bit more showmanship, I think that would be good. And that's kind of where my brain goes, is like turn it into a challenge, make a big deal out of it. Like these two families are going head to head to see how long they can last in the Everglades, and you know, the winner gets, you know, a free, you know, a year's worth of stays at our domes or something. You know, I don't know what the prize is yet, but
I'll
like
stay
I love.
if you're in the dome. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Want them in the dome.
Yeah, I just want to dig into that challenge and like that kind of reality show format, because it's already, like you said, people have seen Alone, they've seen Bear Grylls, they like know this format, and to me the message of, hey, be involved in like a local version of Alone for, you know, families in Southwest Florida, apply here, and like all the people that apply are, you know, it's a great way to build your list.
That's your list.
Yep. And then like two, the challenge itself is just great content and a great way to like launch a product. It's like you get testimonials from both of the families when they're done, and you use that in your marketing materials. And that's how I was thinking of like launching it and getting my first chunk of content, was like creating a challenge of some sort.
So when you say families, are you talking about families with children, and what kind of age range are you looking at the children?
That's a good question. I think that maybe being a little bit more specific about who you want to enter the challenge would be good. I don't know exactly though. What do you think? I feel like there's families that would jump at the opportunity to do it even with kids, but you might want to put like an age, you know, like a cap on it, like kids over this age, just for liability reasons and whatever else. But
if you're going to drop them in the Everglades and say survive, then yes, I would put some sort of cap limit on how young the kids are.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking
not
like
all parents are going to be smart about like, you know, who they're taking out to the. I mean, if the parents don't know how to survive, I don't know that I trust them to keep their children alive throughout this thing.
Well, I'm thinking like having, you know, I don't want it to be like I don't want it to be as raw as Alone. Like Alone's like you don't really have anything. You can take your few items. Like it's going to be similar to that, but having something like, you know, at your camp there's a map that you can follow and it leads to like a small cache of food, or like, you know what I'm saying? Having things like that to kind of gamify it and also make it a little bit safer, you know.
That's what I was thinking. So I was kind of thinking of something like, instead of dropping them off and saying survive, because nature can be very, very unpredictable. And especially when you're doing something smaller, and especially when you're involving younger people, it may not be so smart to just say, we're going to be able to get good content because we're dropping them off in nature. We don't know what's going to happen. So I like the idea, like the cache of food. So if you follow the map, almost like some of those Boy Scout type skills where you're dropping them off, and maybe there's a challenge, right? So there's a challenge of like they read a challenge, and then they have to decide as a family how they would handle that challenge.
Yes.
And then almost like a choose your own adventure type thing. And so you're kind of sending them in directions, and they end up with a final card that says, oops, you died because that was a rattlesnake and not a water snake, right?
Yeah.
So they're in nature, almost like what do they call those rooms? The
escape room.
Yeah, like an escape room, but in nature.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Given clues, and especially at the beginning, because like I don't know that you're gonna like want to build a luxury dome right away. I like the idea of.
I want to build a luxury dome right away. I'm sorry. I'm gonna raise some money, Ali. I got some investors lined up. We're building 6 of these domes. We're doing it. Yeah.
Perfect. But most people tend to scale up, right? You start small and scale up. So let's explore that. I've never done, what is it called now? An escape room.
Yeah.
I've never done an escape room. I've seen it on TV though. So I have a general idea of what they're doing in escape rooms.
Sure.
So how would you do an escape room in nature.
I like that idea a lot. I've done a few escape rooms. I think that that idea in particular is really powerful because a lot of people know what escape rooms are too, and escape rooms are a little more accessible than like, hey, do you want to be on Southwest Florida's version of Alone, right? Like it's an easier entry point to that like family.
I have the name.
Say again?
I have the name.
Go ahead, Andy.
It's Escape the Everglades.
Ah, God, perfect. All right, I'm shutting down my business. I'm doing this instead. It's too good.
It's so good. You set them off at a place, and then there's a meetup point that they have to get to.
Yes, yeah. So that's like the format.
The Everglades.
That's exactly right. So that's the format of kind of Naked and Afraid has taken that turn, right? And it's like, here's the map that you got to get to this point and then this point, and like I think that really would provide, they're not just in the woods, like you have to give them something to do, and I think that is the something. It's like you have to follow this map, get to this place, that's where you're going to get picked up.
That's fun.
Yeah, and there's like things for them to find along the way, and they have to travel through the Everglades, and yeah, I love that.
And maybe there's some like bonus supplies and stuff that they can do side quests.
Yes.
So, I mean, we can also bring in like a D&D element to this where they're, side quests and doing little things on the side so that they're learning more about something, or it gives them a little bit more supplies or a special piece of equipment that's going to help them. They get a tent, but only if they can follow these particular directions to find out where the tent is.
Yeah, and like the clues to get, just like an escape room, the clues to find the thing, they have to have some sort of knowledge about the environment and the ecosystem to understand the clue so that they can then find the thing. It's like, look for this.
Which is the training they would have already gotten where you would have taught them, and so
Correct.
They're going to take that information into the Everglades and be like, all right, what did he say that we were looking for? And I keep going back to snakes, right?
Yeah.
Triangle head versus a whatever, and I know that much about snakes. And I know it's not always consistent, but like,
sure, yeah.
But okay, so we have to look at these different things, and that's the clue we have to follow. And if we don't get it right, we're not going to get the tent.
Yes, I love that idea. I love the idea too of there's a lot of like really cool history in the Everglades. There's like a railroad that went through the Everglades a long time ago, and there's old houses that are falling down in the Everglades. Like there's one called the Fakahatchee Hilton. That's like the name everybody gives it, and it's like just this rundown like old shack essentially in the woods. And I feel like you can kind of tap into that kind of mystery and history a little bit as well. And you could even have somebody out there that's like at a shack that you've built. It's like, follow this tree line southwest, and you'll find whatever his name is at the fish shack, and you can talk to him and barter for supplies. Or you could build out a lot of really cool stuff.
Oregon Trail.
Yes.
Like, gonna Oregon Trail this thing.
Yep. That would be so fun. And like this is why I love this podcast for like already episode 3, because like that idea, it's just so much more solid. Like there are photo tour expedition-y things out there, and like that would be a really great business for me. Like I would love that, but this is like, it feels novel, it feels new, and it feels open to like anybody would want to do this. This seems like such a great idea for anybody. So
yeah, because you could have like if you had a 1-day version of this, like a short one.
Yep.
And then you could have a 3-day, and you could have a 7-day.
Yep.
And I don't know like how much you'd have to do to figure out like a whole 30 days of it, but you could definitely stretch it out. And then what you can do is you can still give them the cameras and things to document their experience, but you tell them that they get some sort of bonus at the end, that the team that comes to the end and has pictures of these things get some sort of bonus.
Yep.
So they've got to take a picture of some Spanish moss. They got to take a picture of a night heron, right?
Yep.
So not everybody's going to see it, but it's almost like playing bingo. And they have a list of things to take pictures of. And so they're paying attention to what's going on around them, and then they get something at the end, like everybody gets a t-shirt if you end up with the most pictures or something Something to that effect.
Great idea. Yep, I love that, and I think that maybe the thing that's making me nervous about the way that this business model is headed is the liability, and I know that that's silly, like, coming from, that's like the whole business is like, there's a lot of liability with just leaving people in the woods. Yeah, and it's like, how do you put the guardrails on it so that it's safe enough, and et cetera, and like,
I think you need the GPS people.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they need to have, just like they do in a loan, you need to have, the radio.
Transponders, yep.
Come get us.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you a quick story here. And this is why the liability, and even with the children, it's not a quick story, but I'm going to make it quick. Why the children concerns me to an extent. When years ago, we went canoeing in Georgia, and it was February. And the water was cold, but the weather was warm. So I thought we could go canoeing, it'd be great. We get out there, turns out the river was flooded. They should have never put us on the river. We didn't have experience with it. Both our canoes capsized. Clary was 8 or 9 at the time. We all ended up in the water, cold, rushing water with rapids. We all, thankfully, 4 of us made it to the edge. Clary goes flying down the river because their foot was stuck in their backpack in the upturned canoe.
Oh, jeez.
So I see my child being drugged down the river.
Wow.
And I just let go of the side, and I'm like, I have to do whatever I have to do to get my kid.
Yep.
So I ended up catching up to Clary. There were some islands there. We ended up on the island. Could barely cross over to the land, and because like my legs were shaking, I was exhausted. Clary's exhausted, and Clary's like, first thing we need to do is find some food. We watched enough of these survival things. I said, no, food is not our first thing right now. First thing is we need to find the rest of the family, and then we need to see where there's a road. That's our first thing. But we ended up in an abandoned cabin so we capsized maybe around 3 o'clock that day. We ended up in the cabin till about midnight.
Wow.
And they had to find us with heat-seeking helicopters.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was a very scary experience. Like Tim, I thought was having a heart attack because he panicked. And Danny lost his glasses, and we're in wet clothes. Temperature was down to 40 degrees that night. The cabin had no door. We had no way to start a fire. None of that happened.
Oh my God. What a nightmare.
So it was a nightmare. And the company that put us on the river apologized and said, we should have never put you out there. The guy who owned it had a heart attack that day.
Jeez.
And was in the hospital, and so his staff were the ones that put us on the river. The state of Georgia said we should have never been on the river that day. We had all of these different, they took us back to the livery where the canoes are, and they're all standing there staring at us with huge grins on our face and said, it doesn't usually end this well. So we're just so glad we found all of you.
Wow.
So yes, with this whole idea, this is why I'm not going on this trip.
Oh, geez.
Part of the reason why. I've already done it. It was not comfortable.
We don't have too many rapids here.
No, no rapids, but there are alligators. So
yeah, they're not going to hurt you. They're fine. No, they're pretty much friendly.
There's a guy on TikTok, I don't know if you've seen him, that goes out and he's like going out at night in the Everglades, and he's like, there's a swamp puppy, and he pets his nose and all of that.
Yep.
We like to watch that, and I get totally freaked out by it. So yes, liability.
Okay.
We signed waivers. We never sued waivers. Them. Yeah. They gave us free T-shirts and a refund.
We survived the canoe trip.
and the guy sat there and strummed his banjo and sang us a song about Jesus walking on the river. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about a river right now.
No.
Please, let's not talk about a river. So how do you make it safe for them? And I mean, you definitely have to get lawyers involved and have good waivers. I mean, obviously they're doing it on shows like Alone or whatever, but does that really prevent the family of somebody if somebody got killed in a show like that?
Yep.
It'd be really interesting to see exactly what those shows put in place. in order to reduce their liability. I'm sure there's also similar things for skydiving and bungee jumping and all of that, where you are putting somebody in actual danger of potentially losing their life. So I don't know the answer to that, but that's probably what's going to make the cost of just running this business. That's probably going to be one of your higher costs, is just creating those guardrails that people don't end up having to be found by heat-seeking helicopters in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I think a big part of that too is like wherever you're gonna do this thing you have to know it like the back of your hand. Maybe it's a large property that somebody just owns and maybe is, somewhat fenced in. Even if it's like thousands of acres, like there's some like boundaries to the property. I've thought about all that too, like, maybe trying to purchase a bigger property out there that's connected to the Everglades or Everglades adjacent and like do something with that. But there's a lot of different options, and it's what kind of like gave me guardrails when I was thinking about this idea. It's like, okay, start with the safe kind of like photography tour thing that and there's not a lot of liability attached, but the next tier, the next rung is like much more fun, and I think even though it opens up the liability, the opportunity is larger, I think.
Well, let's look at it this way too. People put their kids in Boy Scouts and send them out into the woods, and there is usually people that are watching over them, adults, whatever we're calling them.
Chaperones,
Chaperones, there you go. You do usually have some adults and some parents that go out with them as well. But from what I understand of Boy Scouts, there is like a point in which they send them out alone-ish. But they're not in the middle of like the Rocky Mountains. They're on a bigger Boy Scout property. That or state park or something where there are boundaries and there is safety measures somewhat in place, that they know they're not in an area that they're likely to get into big problems. So I like the idea. If you have like a 1,000 acres, shoot, my dad used to have property on West Virginia that was 125 acres.
That's a lot of land.
Is a lot of land, and it was easy to get lost there. And not really kind of know where you are. But then again, that was hilly. This is pretty flat. But then again, the hills are a point of reference. When it's flat, you have fewer points of reference, so maybe it's easier to get lost where it's flat. No, I like the idea, and I think that's the challenge, is like, what is the ideal property where there's enough of a challenge here to be a challenge, but not so challenging that they are
you just
actually
lose people. Yeah, that makes sense. And so I'm excited to start this business. It's hard for me now because like the idea of this show is to get all these out of our brain so we don't do them. But like I am up on this idea. I am like ready to go. I'm gonna get off this call and build a landing page. Like I'm ready.
So let's talk about. I want to talk about like the video aspect of it.
Sure.
Because that's going to be the cool part. Beyond getting that core group of people there, and maybe starting off with some smaller, challenging, escape the Everglades, like small one-day events. And there could be, obviously you could have things that are geared more towards family with children of a certain age, and things that are geared more towards, complete adults. I think there will be a lot of divorces from this. Well, there's going to be a lot of breakups happening when you get like
a couples thing.
Group of people who liked each other when they went in, but we'll see how they like each other when they come out.
Yeah, maybe you could do like a pick your duo kind of thing, right? Like who do you want to survive the Everglades with? Like a two-person challenge, and I think that might be a little bit more. You'll have a lot more people succeed if they get to like pick their partner and it's not just their family or whatever. But
sure. Sure. So we're gonna get footage. So let's say we're doing the adult version, because I think the escape room type idea is less good for, and families doing that is less good for video.
Sure.
I mean, obviously you can make commercials and whatever about it. I think you're going to get more interesting video the more they have to actually do some things to, like if they have to find the tent that they're going to sleep in.
Yep.
And it's maybe a 3 or 7 day long excursion. So what kind of footage are you wanting to get from this? How do you ensure that they're going to get you the right footage if you're not there taking it? And then how do you want to use that footage?
Really great questions. So number one, you asked, how are we going to ensure that they get the right kind of footage, right? So it's like quality footage. I think
what kind of footage do you want them to get, and how do you make sure they're going to get it? Yeah.
Got it. All right. So the kind of footage that I think we're going to need, there's kind of 3 baskets. On any production, there's like 3 baskets, 3 types of footage that you're looking for. You have commentary, which can be like them sitting and talking to the camera, or them just talking while the camera is rolling, pointing at what they're looking at, and you usually use that to kind of like tie the story together. They're looking at something and they're like, hey, we found these directions, and it says that we have to go this direction to find the tent and the food, so we're going to head out. There's the commentary, and then you have B-roll, which is just like footage of things that are happening, not necessarily with any talking, them sleeping, them walking around, them like trying to make a fire, them fishing, literal just clips of things happening. And then you have your the third bucket is kind of like, I want to say it's like a mix of the two, but it's really like transitional footage. So you need the commentary, you need like them actually speaking about things, you need the visuals of the things, and then you need the pieces that move the story forward. So it's like them finding the stuff. It's them, hitting a milestone or a goal. And one of the things that you have to remind people about during reality productions is that those things need to be filmed, right? Like they're celebrating it and they can get caught up in the celebration and they'll forget to film it. So you need to remind them, like, when this thing happens, you guys got to get it on film, or you got to do it and then rewind and then like actually do it again on film, or else we don't have that moment,
Right.
So there's a little bit of training that goes in for the like survival side of things, and then there's like the production side of it. Like, here's how you work your camera, here's when I want you to turn the camera on. That's usually what I would do to try and make sure that they get the quality footage. You train them a little bit, maybe like a half-hour training. That might also be good to kind of remember when we're looking for people to do those challenges. It's like, here's the requirements that we're the qualities that we're looking for in a person to take this challenge, like basic technical understanding of cameras or GoPros, a little bit of maybe, woodsmanship experience, like camping experience for the first kind of group of people that do it, so they kind of know what they're doing. That lends itself to content as well. Like if they don't know how to use a fishing pole, or they don't know how to set up a tent, like maybe there won't be anything there to film. They'll be too frustrated and just like not even use it. So those are the kinds of footage. That's how we're going to get them to get it. We're going to teach them how to get it. And you asked how we're going to use it. Okay, so pretty straightforward. I feel like you can cut together a 3-structure kind of like mini episode of TV. You have the opening portion where you say what the challenge is and you introduce the people. That's filmed by us, right? So like when we're training them, we get that footage, and you kind of set the stage and you film a little bit of them training and learning. And then the found footage is them out there doing the commentary, the B-roll, and the transitional stuff. And then you wrap it up with kind of like, if it's a challenge, this group of people got here faster, so they win X, and you do like the announcement. So beginning, middle, and end, pretty simple structure for like a promotional video kind of mini TV show episode of this thing. And then if there's any like exciting things that happen within the episode, making some sort of viral clips out of that. Say they find like a snake or whatever and they're trying to figure out what it is and identify it, or if they're like, I don't know if I should eat this plant, like, like some of that kind of stuff. Finding some of the viral clips in there. Even like the people that you're having do these challenges initially, you can kind of coach them on that as well if you want to. Like, hey, these are the kind of interactions that we're looking for. That's like the big secret in reality TV, right? Like everybody knows that they kind of give them some direction on what they want and situations to look for, and we can give them that as well. It's like, here's a bullet point list of things that would be really cool to get on camera and cool to happen. So if you see it, go like put yourself in that situation. Obviously be careful, but like here's what we're looking for kind of thing. And we can use those for some viral clips if we're trying to do that. And I think that's pretty much, obviously you need your basic stuff like testimonials from the people afterwards, how'd the experience go. That's the other kind of footage that we need, but we would probably get that ourselves. And we would need kind of like a commercial for the experience. And like all of that footage can be cut into like a broader commercial for the experience itself with some narration. Like, here's what you can expect. If you're looking for a unique, fun family adventure or a unique, fun adventure in the woods, Escape the Everglades is for you. And then like a highlight reel of all the cool stuff that happened. I got a ton of ideas for the footage, but like getting the footage is the hard part, in my opinion. Like training somebody to get the right kind of footage, and just giving them that training in addition to the training, like the survival portion of it would be the key to that.
So what pops into my head is that part of the experience is the fact that they will have their own mini TV episode.
Yep.
So it's not just about promoting the experience. It's like a trophy for them at the end. It's like when you go to the amusement parks and they take a picture of you as you're going down the big hill, and it's like your face, and you buy the picture because you want to show everybody, look, I went down the roller coaster and I was brave, and look at the funny face that person was making. So giving them that completed episode, like it still goes on a YouTube channel, it goes wherever you're going to put it, but then you send it to them and say, this is your episode. Nice. This is what we put together. It's almost like a memory book of their experience there.
Yeah, I like that idea, and making it a part of the product, like making the actual episode a part of the product. I think the hard part there is the production involved with creating something like that from an experience like that. If we had to make something, if we had to make that with every experience that we did, and maybe it's just a question of, how many of those can we actually do in a year, and is it feasible to think that would be the main business model? Can we do enough volume there plus the production at the right price point to make it a viable business? That would be the question that I would ask there.
Well, and I would look at too, where are the, because everything that you're going to do is not just for them, it's also going to go for your own promotion as well. And I'm trying to think, it seems like there's something like this that I have seen before. If you thought of it as every person that goes out there is part of this show, Escape the Everglades on YouTube.
Yeah.
And every person that goes out there, every group that goes out there is an episode for Escape the Everglades. And they're going to pay you to create your episode.
Sure.
But then part of the experience is they get to share that episode with their friends and family and say, look, I did this thing. So I think, and then you have the episodes on there and you've got potentially ad revenue and sponsorships and things you can do above and beyond that could actually pay for that production team on the back end.
Sure.
Potentially. Yeah. That's how I would look at it, is the multiple streams of income you can do with that, but then also that trophy for the person at the end.
Yeah, I like that. I think, I get bogged down in the details sometimes, and I think that maybe still in the beginning it becomes like, can you either charge enough to cover the cost of that production? Because you gotta, in my opinion, if you're gonna do it, it's like that's gotta be a part of the package from the beginning. If that's like the idea, you're gonna get an episode with your experience.
It doesn't have to start at the beginning. You could add it at any time.
Sure. Yeah, and like maybe in the beginning then do it as like your own marketing material, and then as you can afford it, roll that into the, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just like a launch with like the, grand opening launch, like here's this amazing product, you get a TV show with your experience.
You're wanting to do high-end yurts. You already said you got investors, so get those investors to pay for some production.
True.
Every single person that goes out there is, if you think of it like Naked and Afraid and all of those things, those people, as far as I know, don't pay to be on the show.
No, it's like a competition, and if they win, they get a certain amount of money. But
even like Naked and Afraid, you don't get anything. It's just a challenge. No, they have. I'm way back original Naked and Afraid, where it's just two people going out there, and then they make it to the end or they don't, and they don't win any money if they make it to the end. It's just the bragging rights that they made it to the end. The Island was the same thing. It was just all about just making it to the end. Alone, I know they get a prize. They get
Yeah.
$500,000 on a loan, which is
Good chunk of
fantastic.
change, yeah.
Yeah. But they're paying other people. They're paying those people, even if you're looking at prize money, they're paying them to come and do this.
Yep.
In your case, they're paying you to help you create a show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That show then is marketable and is income on its own.
Yep. No, I love that idea. I love the idea at any point in any business if you can spin up an additional revenue stream, revenue source, especially content, right? If you can get the people that are a part of the experience to be creating the content for you, like, even better. You know, it's usually a huge expense to create all that content for yourself,
And
but if you can turn
then
it into the
we
product.
have
it's like,
Coleman sponsoring the tents.
yeah.
We have GoPro sponsoring the GoPros.
Yeah.
We have all of these companies can sponsor the different items that are in the show itself once you get your viewership up. And then you're getting not just product, but money from them as well for the
Yep.
sponsorships, for plugging their products. Because this is exactly what other companies are looking for, right? They don't want to run ads anymore. They want to be integrated as part of a story. So you could integrate them into the story, obviously companies you want to work with and that you would feel good about, but you're not going to get that at the beginning. So you're shoestringing the whole thing, and your production is probably not going to be at the beginning what it is at the 5 years into it.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're just not going to get the same thing, and you're going to evolve and grow. You're never going to be exactly right out of the gate. It's where can you start? And I think a great place to start is just like a small half day, full day escape room-esque type thing that people can do with their families. And then once you have that easy point of entry product to offer them, then you're building that list up of people saying, I love this. This is great. I want to do more. Oh, really? Would you like to do a 3-day? We're considering doing 3 days. Who here is interested in a 3-day? Okay, you get a bunch of people on the 3-day. All right, who here is interested in a 3-day where you are also documenting your experience so it can be part of a show? Then you build into it and you grow it and grow it and grow it. I think one of the problems, and I know you're joking about the investors or not, but I think that's one of the problems with having that investment money from the get-go is you don't allow the natural progression of that business to dictate where you're going to go. You just go with your vision, and what the people want be damned, because you're just going to do what you think you should be doing from the get-go. And you're not allowing the business itself to show you where the biggest opportunities are and the customers to show you. Because sometimes you'll hear something from a customer, they're like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing to do this. And you'll be like, oh, that would open up a whole new revenue stream that I never even thought of.
Yeah,
Customers
so
are great idea generators.
Then the lesson there is to get investors, but then also do this iteration process. It's like have all the money that you need, but also still start small.
Go in slow, start slow, because you and I think investors are going to like that too. Yeah. Because it's not a proven concept. If you say, hey, we're gonna not spend too much of your money here at the beginning while we're proofing the concept. But a lot of them are going to want to see some proof. I think you could do that escape room Everglades for very little upfront money, and and just prove the concept. Show that people want to do it. Show that they'll show up. Get the testimonials at the end. That's how you get your investors. Look, we just sent 5 families on this, and this is what they had to say. This is the coolest thing they've ever been to. They love escape rooms, because that's all we're trying to do, right? One up. Everybody's on escape rooms now. I haven't, but everybody else has. Everybody's done escape rooms. So what's the next thing?
Next step.
Right?
Yeah.
Next step is escape the wilderness.
Yes. Yep. Love that. Escape the Everglades. Alliteration. Hashtag branding.
Branding. Hashtag branding.
Love it.
So let's then talk about joint ventures and what you can do with other companies to make sure that you're getting the right people. Because again, that's kind of the challenge. You want people that have some level of adventure. Like my mother, no. So if you can concentrate, if you can focus your energy on building relationships with people that already have the relationships with people you want to work with. So if somebody's doing airboat tours and all the little things that people already do down here. Well, if I've already been on an airboat tour, I'm not really necessarily looking for more. I'm looking for something different.
Yep.
So it could be a good opportunity for you to joint venture with them. So who are some companies, like how would you approach that?
Yeah, so there's a larger named person down there, like a bigger profile guy who does a lot of python hunts and iguana removals and invasive species control kind of stuff. I believe it's Martin County Trappers or something like that. Seems like a really nice guy, and he has gotten to the point where he went on Joe Rogan's podcast, so it's like big deal. The Burmese python problem in the Everglades is like a huge buzzword topic, and I think that really that's like the first kind of connection that I would try and build, is like working with him in some way, not only to build a joint venture, but also to tap into his audience. Like, he has a big YouTube channel, lots of big stuff, and we could do kind of a collaboration video with him on that. Maybe even trade some services, because he, a lot of his stuff is GoPro filmed. Maybe have somebody go out there and film with him, for him, sponsorship kind of opportunities there through the channel. And that's probably who I would go after first. There are other organizations there that, I mentioned earlier, there's like the controversy with the airboat tours. It's like there's the people that think airboat tours are bad, they hurt the environment, they're loud, and it affects the nature and the animals in a negative way. And then there's the airboat people, like the Gladesmen people, who are out there utilizing the resources and hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff. And I'm all about kind of like bringing people together, and I feel like there's a world in which we could kind of bridge that gap and open up the lines of communication there and create a thing that kind of appeals to both of those markets. I don't know exactly how, but like having, the Martin County Trapper guy come together with some of the hardcore naturalist eco tour people and bridge the gap there and have them come together to be a part of one of my Escape the Everglades tours. It's like, add a portion of this, you meet up with the Python Trapper and you go on this thing, and then at the next portion, in the training portion, it's the eco tour people. I bring some of those naturalists in to do that. I don't know exactly yet how I would do that, but definitely want to partner with people on both sides of the aisle to build this product out. I think that would be pretty powerful, because if you can tap into that controversy a little bit and like bridge the gap, become like the peacemaker, I think that's a pretty powerful brand position to be speaking from. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So being able to work with both, what I'm hearing it too is being able to work with both without either side getting pissed that you're working with the other side.
Yes. Yeah.
Been there plenty of times.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one. I love the idea of bringing them in, maybe like the snake guy. And you said like, the Burmese pythons in the Everglades is like a big buzzword. It is, but even bigger is like snake hunting.
Sure.
People are afraid of snakes, right? They're freaked out by them, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're going after big snakes in the Everglades.
Yeah.
And so that's just like an edgy topic. But if he's already got that following, and he can... And I'm sure there's like an ecology side to what he's doing as well.
Oh, for sure.
For invasive stuff.
Yep.
So if you can show him that these Escape the Everglades isn't just about, people trampsing around the Everglades destroying things. It's about them learning how to respect the land, learning what the natural resources are there. Then that's going to increase your odds to be able to connect with him and get those shout outs from him.
Yeah.
While you were saying that, it occurred to me, I don't know, I keep like getting flashes of something else, like a show I watched or something else in my head. But doing, we're talking about guardrails, doing and possibly even using celebrities to host the tours, that it is Escape the Everglades and everybody there is to work together to figure out the clues, just like in an escape room, but there is a guided tour there.
Yeah.
Tour guide there.
Yeah, with the escape rooms, there's...
don't eat that, please.
Yeah. With the escape rooms, you have a person on the camera, like, watching, and if you get stuck, you can be like, help me! And they'll like, yeah, look under the cup on the table, you idiot. Like, it's over there. Yeah. and you always feel great about winning, even if you used up all your hints. So maybe having that in there, like here's your lifeline, here's your tour guide that's there in case you get your foot stuck in the mud. He can help you. I think that's a good idea too, and maybe having, again, like different tiers for people that have more experience, have like a little bit more hands off of a thing, and for people that are new to it, have like a tour guide that's like, yeah, go through the bush over there, and then like there's the guy that's going to take you to the next thing. But
it would be neat too if you took like this Python guy and maybe he has like a territory that he usually works in and that sort of thing, and you guys combine where they're doing a snake hunt while it's also a little bit more hands-off with just a guide. I don't know how he does the snake hunts, but like just maybe somehow that it's a little bit more choose your own adventure for moving into this.
Yep.
And a little less, now we're going to go do this and now we're going to go do that. And so you could kind of bring the two together. And same with the airboat people. It's possible you could have them set up some sort of something of an area that they're familiar with, that they maybe grew up there, and they're going to take you through what it actually meant to grow up in that land, but they've got to figure it out and kind of do it on their own.
And like going back to escape rooms, it's like here's the room, almost like not blank canvas, but there's like stuff in the room, and you have to figure out what the significance of it is. And you get some initial kind of instructions that set you off on your course. And I feel like that same kind of style, it's like you get put on a boat with somebody and they bring you and drop you off in this spot, and they're like, hey, good luck, here's what we expect you to do in the next hour, and like I'll be back, and if you are like completely lost and have no idea what to do, hop on your walkie-talkie and we'll give you some direction. And it's like they get the clue and they walk across this island, and on the other side there's a person there waiting to take them to the road, and the Python guy's there on the road where he's going to drive you up and down and look for snakes. And like, I get the idea. And it's like, how do you create an experience that has those guide rails, just like we were talking about, and steps where it still feels like you're figuring it out on your own and you're escaping the Everglades? That's really what I think the escape rooms lack, is like, the element of randomness that would lend itself to actually feeling accomplished. Like really what you're doing in an escape room is you're solving a puzzle. And how can you kind of remove like feeling like it's like steps in a puzzle, like you're really trying to survive and escape. Walking that line is going to be the key to making a successful, I think, and fun product.
Yeah, learning how to read the compass and look at the map, and absolutely. And those are all skills that are not as common as they used to be, and I think there's a nostalgia for that, and I think that's why a lot of people do these shows in the first place, because they're like, this is how our ancestors lived, and I want to be able to survive for real like our ancestors. It's just our ancestors didn't live alone. They lived in communities, and that's how they were able to make it. I think that's why I like the island. Because it's a community. It's all of them trying to help each other survive, and not just one person on their own.
Yeah, and maybe there's something to be said for that too, right? So like we were talking about price point and how do we make it profitable while still doing the production, and maybe it's like, here is this group of 10 people, like figure it out together, and here's this list of things that you need to accomplish as a group before you can move on to the next stage of whatever this is. Like a big group escape room. One of the things is like catch a fish and identify it. Like it might be hard for 2 people to catch a fish even on a good day, like with tools that they find, and like make a fishing apparatus. But like a group of people, they all have some sort of like line and hooks. Somebody's going to catch a fish, and they can check that off the
10
list.
lines in the water, you've increased your odds.
And like with that larger group, you might be able to charge something that's reasonable per person and still be profitable and still produce the show. And
and you're going to create more conflict.
Yes. Yep.
When you're there, especially if it's not all, no, I shouldn't say especially if, both ways. If it's all people you know or all people you don't know, you're going to get conflict one way or another. I can imagine our family, not my immediate family, but like my sister and I and our kids and my mom, and if the whole group of us went, it would be definitely a challenge. I have like a group of 10 that would definitely do it, and it would be like constant fighting the entire time, but like good fighting, like competition or whatever, but they're very competitive. And everybody hugs each other and loves each other at the end because they made it. And that's kind of what I really see out of this, and I look at it as, I look at it from the angle of that there are a lot of people today that are scared, they're stressed, they feel disconnected, they don't know themselves. And I love that, and that's what I love about those shows, is the self-discovery that they go along the way. And going through something, going through a challenging experience with other people bonds you to those people. Because you're scared and you're stressed and whatever, but then you accomplish it. You're like, we actually did it. We actually made it to the end, and we're here together. And it brings you together. It makes you feel accomplished. It brings you together as a group. So I really love the human aspect of it, of teaching, or allowing people to actually work on something that feels meaningful to them and having an accomplishment to it.
Absolutely.
While being in nature, which a lot of people are craving as well.
Yep. There's that, I feel like there's a market that we didn't talk about that is kind of like the traditional market for something like this, and I'm crazy that I didn't even think about it. There's that whole like corporate team building exercise market there, and like I think that there are even products like that, like this, for that market. And I think maybe not differentiating or like separating yourself from that, but like that exists and it's focused on team building and whatever else, and like leaning into the TV show kind of adventure aspect of this might be better to help kind of have that unique selling proposition would be good. But I do really like the marketing angle of, come out of this stronger as a group, as a family. I think that really connects.
As a person?
Yeah, as a person.
Yeah.
I think that's a really strong message for sure.
One of the things I do in my online business is every quarter we do a Facebook Live challenge. And the reason I do it is because people are terrified of being on camera. They don't think they can do it. They think they're going to be terrible at it. And then they do it, and I have them do it 5 days in a row. And by the end, they're so proud of themselves. And their chest is out. And they're like, I don't even know why I was scared of this. Yeah. And there's such a sense of accomplishment. And like, I was afraid of this thing. I did it anyhow, and I succeeded.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of room in the market, in the world in general right now, for creating opportunities for people to have those experiences.
Yep.
So that really gets me excited. There was one more question I was going to ask you. I was going to mention I will totally go snake hunting with you.
Really?
Yes, I would totally do that.
Awesome.
I just don't want to sleep on the ground.
We'll have you sleep in the dome. Yeah. We'll get you in.
But I'll totally go snake hunting. I think that would be really fun.
Nice. I've been down to do it a few times. I have friends that go do it. So we have a couple spots we can find some snakes. We can go do that like now. So
yeah, I would. Clary would love to do it.
Cool.
Tim would be totally freaked out, but I bet he would go.
Yeah.
And he'd learn. It'd be good because that's that thing, right? Like he's afraid of snakes. But then if we go and we do it and he actually sees them, he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you just got to experience it a couple times and you're like, okay, that's what that is. Like the fear usually comes from like a lack of being around it, a lack of understanding it. And that's easy to overcome. You just got to put people in the situation where they don't die. And they're like, oh, yeah, like that's totally fine. Yep.
Because that's always my thing. When they go live, I say, how did it go this week? Did you die?
Yeah.
No, I didn't die. So yeah, you got to make sure they don't die, or else they're like, see, this is what I was telling you.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't remember what the other question I had was. We talked about joint ventures, who your customer is. I didn't bring up the list. Like we ideally have a list that we're going off of here.
Yeah, and I think that we slightly mentioned it. I kind of rambled about a bunch of different marketing ideas I had, and in there was the list building. Like, register for the first challenge, escape the Everglades. Like, do you think you can make it out? Sign up if you think you've got what it takes, kind of thing. I feel like you could build I think you could build a good list there, and I think you could also tap into the joint venture thing and have people that are involved in it advertise it to their list, and you could kind of partner up there, put it out to their audience as well, and that's probably how I make a landing page that talks about what the thing is and have them sign up for it, like a sales page.
Yeah, I love that, and especially if you start local. You did mention really quickly about the publicity. Local news is always dying for things to talk about. We got on our local news like so easy. It was just not even hard.
Yep.
All we had to do was do something slightly interesting.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's different than what everybody else is doing. And so by having some sort of competition, Escape the Everglades competition, where people can apply to be part of this first iteration of it, or maybe it's not the very first iteration, but it's the first iteration of like a 3-day, 3 days in the Everglades or a 7-day in the Everglades, and you have people apply. And in marketing, there's a lot of opportunity to say things like danger and can you survive, and like really amping up this isn't for the faint of heart. Don't even sign up if you're not willing to challenge yourself and push yourself to the limit. So almost like the anti-selling, right?
Like if you're not ready to experience dramatic change in your life, like, get off this page now.
Right. If you go inside every time you get bit by a mosquito, this isn't for you.
Yep.
Like, this is for the hardcore person who really wants to see what they're made out of. And so you make it sound miserable and you get just the right people sign up for it.
Yep.
And I think that you do something like that and then you submit it to every media outlet in the area.
Yep.
And you will get TV coverage, you'll get newspaper coverage, you're going to get talked about. Again, it's free advertising. Just by running this challenge, you're building a list.
Yep.
And then you're getting all the free advertising out of it. And then you're doing footage of the actual challenge itself, which creates the footage that you're going to use to get people to sign up for future events. They'll have the whole fear of missing out. Oh, I wish I was a part of that. I can't believe I missed that. I really want to make sure that I'm on the next one.
Yep.
And that allows you, so the more you can create desire and exclusivity and scarcity, the higher your price point can go.
Yep.
And especially, and I think that's where those 7-day things are. Maybe you only do 2 7-day excursions a year.
Yep. Yep.
And it's a high ticket, and they have to be willing to drop everything if they're chosen. And they have to maybe go through a testing phase, all of that. And that's enough to get people driven up and get everybody talking about it. And then when you're like, yeah, but we do 3 days all the time, you can sign up for the 3-day. Okay, well, why don't we try a 3-day first? I'm thinking a lot about like Iron Man, and I'm thinking about, there was this documentary that Tim and I watched that it's like it could be Navy SEALs, it could be something else, but it's Rangers. I think it's the training that they do for Army Rangers, but any civilian can sign up for it. It's a private company, and it's like 48 hours, and you don't get to sleep. And people will pay $5,000 to be part of this, and they won't even pass the push-up challenge.
Yep.
If they can't do, I think it's like 50 push-ups. They can't, so they've already paid, they're already there, they have everything ready to go, but if they can't do the 50 push-ups at the beginning, they're cut out. And like half the people got cut during those 50 push-ups, and one guy made it to the end.
Wow.
One guy made it. It was tough. Just watching it, I was like, oh my gosh. But again, it just shows you like how far you can go if you're really committed to something.
Yep, and how willing people are to pay for experiences like that.
Yep.
Like to just say that they tried it or say that they did it, for sure.
Yeah, and it also shows you how much money they just must have laying around if they didn't even bother to tell if they had 50 push-ups.
Yeah, you didn't like try to do 50 push-ups before you...
It was a documentary, so the guy's like, why would they come if they can't do the 50 push-ups? And the guy's like, I don't know. That's why we have them do it, because we don't want to send them out there and find out they're just going to like scrub out immediately anyhow. So we're just trying to like weed through them.
Yeah.
So,
I like that idea, and I think that making the more the heavier production aspect part of it, like a higher ticket option that doesn't happen quite as often, and you build in that scarcity, maybe even doing it quarterly is reasonable, and like making that kind of the core of your marketing, right? It's like these big kind of PR, perfect PR event challenges, the core of your marketing, the core of your list building, and do it regularly, but not frequently. Making that like the pillar of your marketing, I think would be really successful for sure. So,
I love it. I
Me
love
too.
it. So are you going to start this business?
Yes. Yep. I'm gonna start it. I just gotta like shut everything else down, just quit this podcast, and like only focus on that.
Well, I object.
Yeah. No, I just need to find a good operator, and like that's what I think this, I'm gonna chop this video up and use it to send to investors and to like attract really high quality talent that will run the business too. And I'm just like, minority owner, and I give them really good ideas from time to time and make some money while we just hang out here and do the podcast. That's kind of the plan.
I think what you probably want to do is you want to be the one that's teaching them on day one what things to like be careful of.
Yeah.
Like I imagine that you would like really enjoy that role of actually teaching them and maybe like the initial part of sending them out. But
yes.
Then you're like, all right, other
yeah, have fun. Yeah. Go do your experience. Yeah.
You guys all figure out what's happening with camera angles and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go back and do a podcast.
Yep. Good luck escaping the Everglades. See you later. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that could just be your business model.
Yep.
it's like, okay, good luck.
Yeah,
and
have
then
fun.
You're
See you later.
hire anybody, no investors or anything.
Yeah. Drop them off like, hey, walk north for 5 miles and you'll be out. See you in a few days. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's going to pick you up, but there is cell service there, so you can call an Uber if you need to.
Yeah. There's kayaks up there. You can use that to like go back into town. And yeah, good luck.
That's so great. So I can envision the thumbnail for this one already. We've got to get a picture of you holding a Burmese python or an alligator or something.
Yeah, I got those. I got me sitting on an alligator if you want that.
Yeah, something like that. I do not have any pictures of that sort of me. Not that I'm opposed to it. I just don't have any.
We have I have some pictures of Mariah holding a giant Burmese python together, and we'll just put your face on Mariah's body.
That seems wrong.
We'll ask her first. No,
yes,
better to ask. We'll ask forgiveness. We'll just do it.
It can seem pretty creepy if Photoshop her face out and put my face in.
Yeah. We'll ask first. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So no, this was fun.
So fun.
I think it's a really cool business idea. I love the Escape the Everglades, that whole concept, and like really gamifying it, making something that is interesting and interactive. It's so much easier to market a business that's already fun from the get-go. And on our next episode, we're not going to be talking about a fun business.
Oh, boy.
We're going to be talking about a pretty boring and sometimes serious business. So if anybody watching this, if you haven't started a business yet, start a business that is fun and interesting at its core. Because it's just so much more interesting to market. This is fun and easy to come up with these ideas because it's built into it. It's animals, it's nature, it's survival, it's games, it's all of that. But beyond that, even if you have a boring business, even if you have a business that you're like, yeah, but I'm not doing that, how can you do market research that is also marketing? How can you record the process of somebody going through being a client of yours and using it as content in your business, or even a little show? I love the idea of like you delivering your product is then a show. I've got ideas for myself for doing that more in the future, that it's intentionally helping people and creating a show at the same time.
And those examples are already out there. Like I have clients in the the home flipping industry, and it's like that's a whole TV channel. That's like HGTV, buy houses, flip them, sell them, and it's a hard industry because there's a lot of kind of like scammy people in it that are trying to like lowball offer. But if you literally make a TV show where that's the business, you're going to attract so many people that just want to be on the show. They want to sell their house, but they want to be on the show. You won't have any problems getting clients because they'll want to be a part of the show. So already options out there.
Kind of that small town famous, right?
Yes.
Becoming small town famous.
Correct.
When you have a presence where everybody's being entertained by what it is that you're doing, then the customers are coming out of the woodwork because they want to be a part of it. Because we're all bored. We don't want to be bored. So find ways to bring fun and interaction and gamify your business. so that people are clamoring over themselves. Even if you have a boring business, how can you make it fun?
Yep.
I think that's a good thinking time thing to do. Sit down. How could I make my business more fun and interactive and interesting to my clients? I love it.
Love it.
Any last words, Duncan?
Yeah, sorry, I gotta quit this podcast to start that business. I feel really bad about that, but I gotta follow my dreams, right?
Well, it was bound to happen. There's no way that we can do this podcast and come up with this many great ideas without one of us falling off the deep end. I just didn't think that it was only going to take 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was pretty early. Yeah.
And for an update for everybody, the yogurt shop that I wanted to buy in my hometown, that bright, shiny object has been extinguished because it was purchased. I wish them well. I hope they do good. If I ever talk to them, I'm going to send them our episode 1 about what we would do if we had a frozen yogurt shop, because it's basically just a game plan for what they could be doing for their shop. And I don't think either one of us are in danger of becoming financial advisors or whatever we're going to do in the next episode.
I would send the yogurt business that episode anyway and have them join the group. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think totally. In fact, I will message them tomorrow.
Hashtag marketing.
Hashtag marketing. Hashtag killing it.
Love it.
All right, Duncan, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I had a lot of fun. I can't wait to work on this thumbnail, and we'll talk about our future snake hunting adventures and what we need to do.
Sounds good. I'm in.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
See you on the next one.